Dear students, it is for class 12th, book Vistas, chapter number 4, page number 24, The Enemy, written by Parl S. Buck. हम कुछ मालूमात हासिल करेंगे about this writer, author. Parl S. Buck earned a Pulitzer Prize in 1932 for her novel The Good Earth. She won a Nobel Prize for Literature in 1938. She continued to write prolifically thereafter, choosing China as the setting for the majority of her work. Confronted with her writing career, Buck was active in humanitarian efforts to protect Asian Americans against racial intolerance by increasing awareness. चैप्टर का जो स्केच है दिस स्टोरी इज सेट एट द टाइम ऑफ द सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर इट इज ए हार्ट रेंडरिंग portrayal of the conflict between man's head and heart. An American sailor is washed ashore in a dying state and is found at the doorstep of a very eminent Japanese surgeon and scientist, Dr. Sado Hockey. Sado is torn between his duty as a doctor and as a patriotic Japanese, his heart is telling him to save the prisoner while his mind is fighting to turn him over to the police. It is difficult choice to decide whether one should allow oneself to be governed by emotion or by reason. This lesson Dr. Shiro Hoki's house was built on a support of the Japanese coast where as a little boy he had often played the low sketch tune. House was set upon rocks well above a narrow beach that was outlined with bent pines. As a boy, Sado had clambered the pines, supporting himself on his bare feet as he had seen men do in the South Seas. When they clambered for coconuts, his father had taken him often to the islands of those seas, and never had he failed to say to the little brave boy at his side, those islands yonder, they are the stepping stones of the future of Japan for Japan. Where shall we step from them? Sado had asked seriously. Who knows? His father had answered. Who can limit our future? It depends on what we make it. Sado had taken this into his mind as he did everything his father said. His father, who never joked or played him with, but who spent infinite pains upon him, who was his only son. Sado knew that his education was his father's chief concern. For this reason, he had been sent at 22 to America to learn all that could be learned of surgery and medicine. He had come back at 30 and before his father died, he had seen Sado become famous not only as a surgeon but as a scientist because he was preferring perfecting a discovery which would render wounds entirely clean. He had not been sent abroad with the troops also. He knew there was some slight danger that the old general might need an operation for a condition for which he was now being treated medically, and for this possibility Sado was being kept in Japan. Dr. Sado Hoki, a famous Japanese surgeon and an accomplished scientist, lived in a house on the Japanese coast. The house was set upon rocks above a narrow beach surrounded by pine trees. As a child, Sado used to climb these trees. He often visited the South Sea islands with his father. His father believed that the islands were stepping stones to Japan's future to gain perfection. Sado's father was a very serious and traditional man. He never joked or played with him, but took infinite pains for his son. Sado's education was his chief concern. He even sent Shadow to America to complete his studies. Shadow's father inculcated in him values of patriotism and national loyalty when the latter was quite young, and Shadow had always grasped these great virtues. The Second World War started, but Shadow was not sent with the troops because he was about to make a discovery which would render wounds entirely clean. Also, the general who was old was being treated by Shadow and he might require an operation anytime. This is all for today. It is an introductory lecture for this.